Revealed. An unknown text at my son's funeral unveiled a hidden truth: my son is alive. Ellen stood at the front of the church, her hands trembling around the bouquet of flowers Jake had carefully picked for her last spring. The vibrant colors seemed almost grotesque against the backdrop of white casket and muted expressions, highlighting the chasm between her love for him and the suffocating reality of his absence. The whispers around her felt like needles piercing her skin. Kind-hearted friends offered condolences, but inside, a storm raged. She could barely recall the conversations, the faces morphing into a blur of sorrow and pity. How could the world keep turning? Did they not understand that her son, the bright spark in her otherwise gray life, was gone forever? As the preacher spoke of life, hope, and the future, she felt suffocated, trapped in a nightmare that had started the moment she heard the news. Memories consumed her. Jake's laughter echoing through the hallways, his dreams of college, of building a life she'd always imagined for him. Each word from the podium was a desecration of the dreams they shared. Ellen fought the urge to scream, wanting nothing more than to carve a path through the grief that threatened to suffocate her. She desperately clung to the flowers, desperate for their lingering scent to remind her of better days. After the service, the silence of her empty home awaited her return, a stark contrast to the bustling conversations and solemn echoes of the church. She stepped inside, where every room tasted of decay and loss. Noticing Jake's belongings scattered throughout the house, she felt a coil of frustration tighten within her. How could she continue in this stasis? Somehow, through it all, she found herself drawn to Jake's room, an unsolved puzzle begging to be pieced together. She sank to her knees, sifting through remnants of his life, each item a thread that wove their connection. And then, beneath his bed, she unearthed a simple, unassuming journal. As she opened it, a cold wave of dread washed over her. There, amidst the lines of her son's neat handwriting, an unknown text caught her eye. It hinted at a secret life, a hidden involvement in a dangerous operation. Could it be? Her heart raced, terror mingling with an exhilarating hope. The realization hit her like a punch. Jake was part of something bigger, something that may have cost him his life. Had she only seen the boy she brought up, blissfully unaware of the world he navigated? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the truth settled within her, Ellen felt emboldened, possessed by a fierce maternal instinct. The remnants of grief morphed into a simmering determination. Yet, as she delved deeper, encountering hostile figures that attempted to silence her questions, dread consumed her. They painted her search for answers as the product of grief-stricken delusion, laughing in the face of her investigations. Doubt crept in, challenging the clarity of her purpose. What if she was truly losing her mind, chasing after fantasies woven from her pain? This fear threatened to unravel her resolve, each confrontation leaving her more vulnerable. With every lead, the shadows loomed larger. The web of conspiracies began to entangle her more tightly, each revelation only feeding the darkness gnawing at her core. The haunting whispers replayed in her mind. What if the ones she thought were allies had their own hidden agendas? The weight of these questions constricted her, turning the chase for truth into a perilous game of survival. What dangers lay ahead, and what sacrifices must she make? Ellen stood on the precipice of turmoil, uncertain whether the truth would lead her closer to Jake or deeper into despair. The unsettling realization settled in. Uncovering the truth may come at a cost she was unprepared to pay. Ellen stared at the journal, its pages now a tangible link to Jake. Yet they also spun a web of uncertainty around her. Each word she deciphered seemed to echo with urgency. She was not just a grieving mother. She was now an investigator unraveling a mystery that could have shrouded her son's existence. The adrenaline rushed through her veins, propelling her forward, but deep down she felt the tremors of doubt. What if she was indeed searching for shadows, drowning in a quagmire of grief? Regardless, The idea that Jake could still be alive ignited a fierce determination within her. The next morning, Ellen took a deep breath and approached the first lead that the journal indicated, an address written in the margins of one of the entries. It belonged to a man named Ray, a name that sent shivers down her spine. She had caught snippets of conversations about him from Jake over the years, always lingering at the edge of their discussions, but never fully engaging. Now, she was about to face someone who might hold the key to Jake's secret life. With each step toward Ray's address, the world blurred into a rush of determination and fear. Arriving at an unmarked warehouse on the outskirts of town, Ellen's heart raced. The building loomed ominously in the dreary fog, casting a shadow that felt suffocating. She hesitated. The thoughts began to swirl again. What if Ray was indeed involved in something dangerous? What if she had stumbled into a scenario far beyond her understanding? Yet, the thought of Jake, possibly alive and trapped in a world she couldn't comprehend, propelled her forward. Inside, the air thick with mustiness and uncertainty, she called out, her voice trembling as it echoed against the cold walls. Moments later, Ray appeared from the shadows, his expression unreadable. Ellen recognized him as Jake had described, but the casual demeanor couldn't mask the flicker of wariness in his eyes. "You're not supposed to be here, Ellen," Ray said, his tone both reluctant and firm. "Where's Jake?" she demanded, her voice steadier than the quaking in her stomach. Ray shifted, the tension coiling around them palpable. "You shouldn't be asking these questions. It's dangerous." "Dangerous?" She fought to maintain her composure. "I've lost him, Ray. Every moment I'm here is a risk I'm willing to take. Just tell me what you know." His silence spoke louder than words, an acknowledgement that swirled with dread. Ellen pressed him, her emotions igniting the urgency. She needed to break the silence. Something in Ray's resistance hinted at knowledge he was withholding. The desire to protect her son seemed to catalyze an inner strength she never knew she had, transforming her need for answers into an unyielding force. "You have no idea what you're diving into," Ray finally countered, frustration lacing his words. "Jake was in deep, and surface-level knowledge could put your life in jeopardy. He was trying to help people, but what?" Ellen interrupted, leaning closer, her desperation palpable. Ray's gaze fell to the ground, a moment fraught within the silence between them. She could see the shadows of guilt mingling with fear behind his guarded demeanor. The weight of secrets tangible between them. "It's not simple. His life isn't just a story for you to uncover. You don't know who you're dealing with." Her resolve solidified. She wasn't prepared to back down. "I don't care about the dangers, Ray. I need to know if he is alive. I need to know the truth." At that moment, the shift in the atmosphere crackled like static. Ellen felt the fierce rush of determination swell within her, battling against the dawning realization that with every truth she unearthed, she was inching closer to a dark reality that she might not be able to handle. Ray sighed, the decision weighing heavily on his shoulders. "Then let us talk. But you need to understand. This could be the start of something much deeper and more dangerous than you ever imagined." As they made their way deeper into the warehouse, contemplation washed over Ellen. She still felt the chill of uncertainty, but the resolve to navigate through shadows ignited a path forward. What lay beneath the surface awaited to be discovered, and Ellen was ready to confront whatever dangers were entwined with seeking her son. But just as they began to dive into the details, an ominous sound resonated through the warehouse, the unmistakable click of a locking mechanism. Someone was watching them, and now the stakes were rising higher than ever. Would uncovering the truth about Jake lead to liberation, or only further entrapment? Ellen could feel her pulse quickening, the sound of the locking mechanism sinking deep into her gut. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, yet her feet remained rooted to the ground, tethered by an unyielding need to unravel Jake's mystery. A sense of dread wrapped around her like a shroud, tightening with each hurried breath she drew. Ray glanced around the warehouse nervously, a flicker of fear tracing across his features. "We're not alone," he muttered, shifting closer to Ellen as if to shield her from an unseen threat. The heavy silence grew, laden with unspoken fears, the walls enclosing them like a prison. Ellen felt the weight of darkness pressing in, but the thought of Jake spurred her into motion. "What do you know, Ray?" She pressed, urgency overpowering her fear. Yes, out there, and you can help me find him. Ray eyed the shadows uneasily. You don't understand the forces involved, Ellen. They will do anything to keep things hidden. Trust me, involvement with them is dangerous. You need to leave now. His warning tugged at something deep inside her. But images of Jake, alone and vulnerable, propelled her forward like an arrow shot from a bow. I lost my son, Ray. I have nothing left to lose. If danger is the price of learning the truth, then so be it. Ray inhaled sharply, a mixture of admiration and despair flickering in his eyes. You don't realize it yet, but this will change everything for you. Jake was tangled up in something. This isn't just a simple runaway story. He was part of a bigger picture, a network that helped people escape dangerous situations. When he found out too much, things went sideways. Her mind raced as she processed his words. A network? What does that even mean? Is he still alive? Before Ray could respond, there was movement in the shadows. Ellen's heart leapt. A dark figure then emerged, a silhouette against the dim light. Time seemed to slow as she prepared for confrontation, her body tensing as the figure stepped into view. Who are you? Ellen demanded, taking an instinctive step forward, shielding Ray. Relax, Ellen. I'm not here to hurt you, the stranger said calmly, their voice enveloped in an eerie detachment. I'm here to ensure that you don't go further down this path. Ellen squinted, trying to glean any semblance of familiarity. What do you mean? The figure raised an eyebrow, their poker face unmoved. I know about Jake. I know where he is. With those words, sensation sparked through her like wildfire, a flicker of hope igniting that was soon tempered by trepidation. You know he is alive? She asked, desperation burning in her throat. For now, the stranger replied, their tone matter of fact. But if you pursue the truth, you may lose more than he already has. Ellen cast a sideways glance at Ray, who wore an expression of concern, as though the stranger's words were a warning more than a revelation. The tightness in her chest alternated between exhilaration and dread. What is that supposed to mean? I'm not going to stop searching for him. The stranger took a step forward, their demeanor shifting slightly. Then let us set conditions. You can know where he is, but in return, you have to be willing to play the game. Ellen's mind cascaded into a torrent of thoughts. What kind of game? What were the stakes? She felt the weight of these choices pressing against her, the moral dilemma amplifying her anxiety. What are you asking of me? The stranger paused, as though gauging her resolve. You must be prepared to fight for your truth, to accept that the answers you seek may lead you into darkness. Ellen's heart thundered as she weighed her options, knowing she was standing at a crossroads that could alter her life forever. She could retreat, protect herself from whatever danger awaited, or she could push through the looming uncertainty. Would this act of courage help her find Jake, or drag her further down a perilous spiral? Just as adrenaline spiked, the distant sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the cavernous space. The air thickened, silence tinged with anxiety. The moment pulled taut, and, as time hung before her, Ellen made a decision. I'm in, she declared, conviction transforming uncertainty into resolve. I'll face whatever lies in wait, but you have to promise that you will help me find Jake. A slow smile crept across the stranger's face. Very well then. Welcome to the depths of the unknown. As the footsteps grew louder, Ellen braced herself for what awaited beyond those shadows. The moment had arrived to confront the dangers that lay hidden, and in doing so, discover not just the truth about Jake, but about her own capacity for bravery in the face of the unknown. Would she emerge triumphant, or would the shadows consume her? The next chapter loomed ahead just as her courage was about to be tested again. The footsteps reverberated through the warehouse, sharp and authoritative, shattering the stillness. Ellen's heart raced as she prepared for a confrontation, her resolve hardening with each beat. The stranger stood beside her, their expression unreadable, an insidious blend of confidence and caution. Ray instinctively shifted away from her, positioning himself as a reluctant shield, uncertain of the threat they faced. Out of the shadows emerged two men, their stances rigid and predatory. The leader, tall and imposing with a jagged scar marking his cheek, surveyed the room with cold, calculating eyes. Ellen felt her throat tighten. There was no turning back now. The stakes had shifted, and the air crackled with tension. Who are you? The leader demanded, a sneer twisting his lips. And why are you bothering with things best left untouched? Ellen straightened her back, drawing on every ounce of courage she had. I want to know where Jake is, she asserted, the words pouring forth with the fervor of her determination. She thought of her son, trapped in a world she was only just beginning to understand. The leader chuckled, a dark sound that vibrated with menace. You think you have any right to meddle in matters far beyond your comprehension? But Ellen positioned her heart like armor, each word a barrier against his intimidation. Yes, my son. I know he is alive. I want to stop searching for him, not now, not ever. Brave, but foolish, the leader retorted, crossing his arms. You have no idea what lies ahead. You're not equipped for this fight. The stranger beside her leaned in slightly, their voice low but steady. Let her through. She's made her choice. This isn't about you anymore. It's about her pursuit of truth. Denying her now would only make things worse for everyone. Confusion flickered across the leader's expression. His icy demeanor broke, if only for a second. You're placing faith in a woman, why? She's out of her depth. Ellen seized the opportunity. You don't know what I'm capable of. I want to back down. If you have information about Jake, I need it now. There was a moment of silence, heavy and electric, while everyone seemed to weigh her words. Ray shifted nervously beside her, wrestling with his instinct to protect her and the reality of the peril they faced. Finally, the leader gestured dismissively, a flicker of respect glinting in his eyes. Very well. If you're truly committed, there's a meeting where those like your son gather. Do your research and you might find clues to his whereabouts. Then take me with you, she said, her heart pounding with urgency. I'll find him. The leader raised an eyebrow, his amusement returning. And why would I help you? You'd be a liability, someone weighing down the mission. I can learn, she countered sharply, unfamiliar resolve saturating her voice. I want to be a burden. I can contribute, give you something invaluable, my insight. The stranger nodded subtly, as if impressed by how far her courage had driven her, but their gaze remained sharp, observant. You have bigger stakes now, Ellen. It's time you discovered more about yourself. With a begrudging sigh, the leader contemplated her, his expression betraying an unwilling admiration. Fine. But understand this is no stroll in the park. You will witness things that may shatter your understanding of everything. Then bring it on, Ellen replied, a fierce defiance rising within her as she embraced the oncoming storm. As they began to move, her thoughts spiraled. What lay ahead wouldn't just determine Jake's fate. It would forge her anew or threaten to unravel her completely. Every step infiltrated her mind with uncertainty, weaving a tapestry of fear and anticipation. She would have to confront the darkness grazing the edges of her understanding. Once they settled into their new arrangement, she questioned her capabilities, wrestling with shadows that echoed from her past. Was she prepared to face the truth not just for Jake, but herself? Just as these thoughts coalesced into a cohesive understanding, a distant voice echoed from within, a sense of urgency screaming for her to reconsider her motivations. What if she discovered strength she never knew existed? What if she unlocked parts of herself deemed irretrievable? With newfound resolve, she braced for the unknown journey ahead, knowing her very identity would be at stake. As the meeting approached, Ellen knew that the time for revelation was upon her. The stakes had never been higher. Would she rise from the depths, or would the truths unearthed claim her spirit? The next chapter loomed ahead, heavy with the weight of impending revelations. Ellen maneuvered through a series of dimly lit corridors, her pulse quickening with each firm footfall. The weight of the impending meeting pressed heavily on her shoulders. Yet beneath that weight lay a current of indefatigable resolve. She didn't know if Ray was following closely, but she sensed his apprehension blending with her own uncertainty, tinged with a fierce sense of purpose. What had initially felt like a reckless plunge into the unknown began to crystallize into something tangible. This was her chance to reclaim control over a narrative that had spiraled beyond her grasp. As she approached the designated space, her mind churned with questions swirling around the impending revelations. She recalled the leader's words. You will witness things that may shatter your understanding of everything. Every syllable hung in the air like a portent, daring her to challenge her beliefs about herself and her capability to navigate this treacherous path. The steel threading her spine bolstered her determination to see this through, even if it meant confronting dark elements of her past. Once they entered the meeting area, a hidden alcove within the warehouse, illuminated mainly by flickering fluorescent lights, Ellen's senses heightened. The room buzzed with an unsettling energy, the air thick with tension wrapped around murmured exchanges. The stranger positioned themselves subtly beside her, reinforcing what they had aimed to convey. This moment was crucial for her evolution. Taking a deep breath, she stood a little taller and swept her gaze across the gathering. She recognized that each figure represented different elements of her son's world. The stakes had escalated from personal to something that intertwined with the lives of others. Ellen swallowed hard, drawing from a reservoir of courage she didn't know she possessed. This was her opportunity. Before she had time to formulate a strategy, the leader strode forward, pulling the attention of the crowd. "We've got a new player," he announced, his deep voice commanding respect. "She seeks the truth, and we're going to grant her a glimpse of it." Ellen felt a rush of heat at his words. It was a challenge. Her resolve was being put on trial in front of this gathering of strangers, and the impending press of expectations felt suffocating. As the leader recounted the stakes involved with Jake's circle, Ellen listened, absorbing details that sent shockwaves through her mind. The world he had entered was more chaotic than she could have ever imagined, and with each revelation, clarity replaced the uncertainty that had plagued her moments before. What's a parent supposed to do when their child drifts into danger? The question echoed through her thoughts, twisting into an anguished plea. With every detail, the balance shifted. She felt something crack within her, a haunting realization that she had sheltered herself from the truth far too long. "Who are you really?" Ellen questioned, redirecting her focus toward the leader. A spark of defiance ignited her voice, filling the air with a newfound strength as she reached into burgeoning layers of her identity. "If you want me to fight for Jake, I need to know what I'm up against." The leader's eyebrow creased with intrigue, weighing her challenge. "Calling the shots already, are we?" His demeanor shifted, amused yet drawn to her fierceness. "Fair point, but be prepared to face uncomfortable truths." Ellen felt adrenaline surge. The stakes had transformed. This was no longer solely about Jake. The quest was morphing into a path that beckoned her realization. Embracing her own power was the war she needed to win. For years, she had been a passive observer of her life, but now the pieces were clicking into place. Was she prepared to confront the reality of who she had become? As the meeting progressed and the conversation delved deeper, Ellen found herself grappling with observations about others' hidden strengths and vulnerabilities. Each story shared struck chords of familiarity within her. She was not alone in this struggle, and within that collective grief lay the seeds of unity. Just when Ellen thought she had grasped the complexities of the situation, the leader delivered a final blow, revealing one cryptic detail about Jake's life that sent her spiraling. "He has become integral to something larger than all of us, a cause, a movement. But it'll come at a price." The gravity of his words wrapped around her, tightening its grip. Was Jake part of something noble, or was he entangled in darkness? The deeper she dug, the more she realized this journey held the potential to fracture her notions of who she was meant to be. With each unfolding layer, she teetered between the fear of losing herself and the hope of rediscovering strength she never knew lay dormant within her. Could she truly weather the storm without losing sight of her own values? The tension of the unknown thrummed in her veins. There was no turning back now that as the meeting reached its climax. She felt a sudden, empowering quiver of courage. It was time to confront the deeper truths about herself, her son, and the shadowy expanse ahead. The moment loomed, and as the last word echoed, she readied herself for the next question that would define her future. Would she be able to embrace the unknown that awaited her? Ellen's heart pounded in syncopation with the murmurs around her, each fragment of conversation fusing with her rising adrenaline. She could feel her focus sharpening, the ambient chaos of the room dissolving into a singular, fierce intention. A cacophony of voices and breaths surrounded her, yet she felt an inside whisper, urging her toward clarity. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Drawing in a deep breath, she stepped forward slightly, the pull of both fear and resolve anchoring her. She locked eyes with the leader, a man with an unsettling mix of wisdom and danger etched across his features. What do you mean by a price? She queried, her voice steady as a warrior's shield, unwilling to reveal the tremors beneath. The room fell silent, the moment suspended in tension. The leader regarded her with a mixture of respect and caution. Sometimes, he said, the gravity of his words resonating like a low drum. The truth about our loved ones forces us to confront the worst of ourselves. Ellen felt that resonance vibrating deep within her. She had been avoiding the underlying truths of her life for far too long, cocooning herself in a world of comforts and ignorance. The conversations she had had with Jake over the years echoed in her mind, discussions of dreams, fears, and hope woven together with threads of a childhood now shattered. She needed to rise from this self-imposed shadow. Jake is, she began, her voice surging with conviction, not just another name. I won't let him be just a part of the chaos. There was a newfound strength in her that she hadn't recognized a moment ago. A willingness to harbor vulnerability as power rather than weakness. If he is part of something larger, I must know how to protect him. Her resolve ignited murmurs around the room, and Ellen held her ground against the tide of uncertainty swirling inside her. She began to realize that her purpose was woven tightly not just with Jake's welfare, but with her own identity. The faces around her were no longer strangers. They were reflections of her struggles and her aspirations, each testimony contributing to a mosaic of strength that she could draw upon. The leader nodded slowly, seemingly impressed. You speak of protection like a lioness. But this fight requires knowledge of far more than just instinct. You need to discern friend from foe. He gestured to a pair of figures lounging in the corner, shadows cloaked in mystery. Not everyone here wants what's best for Jake, even among allies. Ellen pondered this, the implications starkening her awareness. Navigating the treacherous waters of her surroundings demanded an astuteness she had nearly forgotten she possessed. Could she learn to see beyond the facades? The question revolved within her mind. Suddenly, a sharp voice broke through her reverie, slicing through the tension that had wreathed the room. Maybe the real question is, what are you prepared to sacrifice? A tall woman stepped forward, her arms crossed defiantly, resembling a hawk assessing potential prey. When the stakes are so high, truth and loyalty can bend. Are you ready to face that? Ellen swallowed hard, her insides twisting with the challenge but not shying from it. Sacrifice. It echoed louder than earlier revelations, weighing heavily on her heart. What was she willing to relinquish to reclaim Jake's future? As the weight of the moment pressed down on her, Ellen gazed around the room, listening internally to the pulse of her own heart. Each concerned expression mirrored not just skepticism, but also shared fear, a reminder that even in the fiercest battles, connection could breathe life. She gathered herself, steeling her mind against the voltage of uncertainty crackling in the air. I'm ready to face whatever it takes, she boldly declared. Because if Jake is alive, I will uncover the truth no matter the cost. The weight of her words hung heavily, like thick smoke settling on the minds of those watching her. Could she mask the trembling of her heart behind this daring facade? Only time would reveal if she possessed the strength to match her audacity. Suddenly, the leader interjected again, his gaze sharp. Then it's time to meet the people who've been watching Jake's movements. The truth comes at a price, but you must be ready for the revelations that await. Ellen's breath caught in her throat. The depths of this reality were unfathomable. And yet, she felt herself inextricably drawn into its complexities. What were these new truths that would shatter her world, yet rebuild her clarity? She straightened, setting her determination firmly in place. As they began to make their way deeper into the labyrinth of the warehouse, Ellen felt the walls close in around her, both a literal and metaphorical sense of confinement. Yet beneath the impending dread lay a spark of excitement. She would unearth whatever lay ahead, piece by piece. A chill slithered up her spine as she stepped forward, the flickering fluorescent lights casting shadows that danced across her path. What new secrets awaited beyond the next corner? Even greater than her own unraveling truths loomed a confrontation with the unknown, a test of her determination to wield truth as both armor and weapon. Would she emerge unscathed, or would 20 years of fear and complacency meet their reckoning in the face of revelations? Ellen's pulse quickened as she moved through the narrow, dimly lit corridor. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation, each step further into the warehouse intensifying both her resolve and uncertainty. The confidence she had felt moments ago began to waver, shadows of doubt creeping into her mind. What truths lay ahead? What sacrifices would they demand? Her heartbeats echoed in her ears, reminiscent of the anxious anticipation before a performance, a trait shared by many in her days as a theater student. She had often faced the stage, heart racing, rehearsed lines sending shivers of excitement through her. But this was no play. The stakes were far higher than any audience's applause. She was fighting for Jake. Pausing to collect herself, Ellen focused on the sharpness of her breath. Adrenaline surged, pushing aside the tendrils of fear. Commitment engulfed her. The primary goal was to navigate through this maze of secrecy and retrieve what she had lost. She would need every ounce of her wit and courage. The leader, sensing her internal struggle, nodded towards her, a sign of silent agreement. "Stay vigilant," he urged, as they approached a door barred by heavy metal. "These are the people connected to Jake. What you learn here could alter everything." Ellen nodded, eyes narrowing as curiosity and dread merged. The leader pushed open the door, revealing a dimly lit room filled with figures cloaked in shadows, each silhouette carrying a story waiting to unfold. She felt a magnetic pull toward the assembly, an intrinsic call to confront whatever might come next. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with tension, a collective breath held tightly, waiting for her to make the first move. The tall woman from earlier now stood beside the leader, her defiant stance unwavering yet inviting, almost as if challenging Ellen to understand the gravity of what awaited her. "Welcome," the woman said, voice steady and deliberate, "to the heart of the operation. We've been watching Jake, because he is a part of something significant, something that transcends his understanding. He needs protection, but that comes at a cost." Ellen's stomach churned as the implications sunk in. The labyrinth of uncertainty stretched ahead. Each corner turned promising revelations that could as easily unravel her as they could strengthen her. She recognized within herself an ever-present fear of the unknown. Yet a flicker of determination started to surge, wanting to push back against the darkness. "What do you need from me?" Ellen replied, her voice steady. She was surprised at her own certainty. "Tell me how to protect Jake." The tall woman scrutinized Ellen closely, searching for scars hidden beneath her skin. "We'll guide you," she said at last, "but we can't hold your hand. To truly protect him, you'll need to engage with your own vulnerabilities." Ellen felt a tightening in her chest as the statement dismissed everything she thought she had navigated through in life. Vulnerability. That was a word she had cautiously tiptoed around for years, its dagger-like edges responsible for the most profound wounds in her life. But perhaps this was the missing piece of her armor, a concealed weapon she had yet to wield. In that moment of unwilling introspection, she realized the fight for Jake was also a fight for herself. She would have to face not only enemies, but also her own limiting beliefs. Could she acknowledge her weaknesses and still emerge stronger? Her thoughts scurried before her, grappling with the notion that the very thing she had shunned might become her greatest ally. "I'm ready to embrace that. I'll uncover whatever caves in my past that can illuminate Jake's path. Just show me where to start," she said, determination igniting within her anew. The woman's face softened slightly. "Very well. But remember, every action has consequences. Uncovering the truth often means facing your deepest fears." She gestured for Ellen to step further into the room. The walls echoing with the weight of her decision. As Ellen crossed the threshold, a longing to reclaim Jake surged through her veins, intertwined with the fear that whispered, "What if you lose everything?" But she couldn't turn back now. A sharp gasp echoed from the back of the room, and Ellen spun toward the source of the sound. What new fragment of truth awaited her? Would it shatter her newfound resolve or elevate it to uncharted heights? The next moment would decide, and she was ready if only just. Ellen's heart raced as she locked her gaze onto the figure at the back of the room. Shadows danced around a man who, despite his obscured features, radiated a familiarity that sent chills down her spine. Her mind raced, raking through memories and emotions. "Jake," she whispered, her voice choked with an amalgam of hope and trepidation. The murmurs in the room stilled, all eyes trained on the silhouette, now stepping into a fragile beam of light illuminating the space. The sight drew a sharp breath from Ellen. It was the line of his jaw, the curl of his unruly hair, a twisted reflection of the boy she thought she'd lost. The echo of his laughter haunted her, surfacing from a deep well of unresolved grief. "Ellen," he spoke, voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of vulnerability. Suddenly, she was thrown into an emotional tempest. How could he be here? And if it was him, why was he surrounded by these strangers? Yet, questioning now wasn't her priority. She was pulled from her roots, yearning to bridge the gap time had created. "Why didn't you tell me?" she managed, her breath unsteady. "I've been searching for you." "I had to keep you safe," Jake insisted, stepping forward with guarded eyes that darted behind her. Each word held weight. Yet Ellen felt the distance that years and choices had carved between them. In that moment, the room faded away, and all she could see was the boy who had once thrived with laughter and the luminous light of possibility. The leader's voice had vanished, the tall woman's stoic demeanor eclipsed by the man she loved and feared losing all at once. But the truth was more complex than just his presence. And she sensed it lurking in the shadows of his gaze. "Keep me safe?" Her voice trembled, echoing her disbelief. "From what? From whom?" "I can't explain everything right now, but there's a reason I've been out of touch." There was danger and still is. He paused, measuring his words. "You were never meant to be involved in this. It's more complicated than you think." Ellen's got twisted. "Complicated? I thought I was supposed to learn about vulnerabilities. I just found out I could be brave enough to face them." Jake's expression shifted, understanding mingling with regret. "You don't know what that means in this world. Vulnerability here could cost you your life. I can't lose you too." A sense of anger flared within her. "You don't get to make that choice for me anymore." She stepped closer, defiance swirling in her gut. "We're in this together." "I want." He turned back. The leader intervened, his voice reminding them of the peril they faced. "We need to focus." The truth about Jake's involvement is intricately tied to the shadows lurking outside this facility. There are factions at play that threaten his life, and now yours. We need to assess your readiness to tackle these challenges. Ellen's resolve crystallized, shattering the doubts that had clung to her. She recognized that this journey was no longer solely about Jake. It was about claiming her autonomy in a world laden with risks and revelations. Every step she took, every decision held the potential to reshape who she was destined to become. "Tell me what I need to do," she asserted, her voice clear and unwavering. Another gasp shattered the atmosphere. Stepping forward from behind the shadows, a figure stepping forth. A connection with a familiar face. As recognition dawned, Ellen braced for the implications of this encounter, heart racing, senses heightened. What was the truth hidden behind this new revelation? And how deep would the rabbit hole go? With every choice made, the stakes increased, and Ellen prepared herself for a conflict that would test the very fibers of her strength and resolve. Ellen stood frozen, the familiar figure stepping from the shadows igniting a storm of emotions. The air around her thickened, and she could feel her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. This unexpected apparition felt like the final piece of a puzzle she hadn't yet realized she was assembling. As the stranger entered the light, she recognized not just a face but a cascade of memories, each one richer and more complex than the last. "Natalie?" she breathed, disbelief mingling with a flicker of hope. The woman's presence was unexpected yet oddly reassuring, reigniting the flickers of a past Ellen thought she had buried. "Ellen," Natalie replied softly, but her voice held an edge, as though she bore news that could shatter worlds. "I'm so glad you're here. You need to listen to me." Ellen's thoughts tangled, weighed down by the intertwining threads of her past relationships. How tangled had their stories become? What's going on? Why are you here now? As she spoke, Ellen felt the sharpness of her own resilience sharpen, worming its way through the confusion. The urgency in Natalie's voice pressed against her psyche, urging her to focus, to sift through the chaos and grasp the truth. Jake's not the only one in danger. The threats are connected, and it involves you now. Natalie took a deliberate step closer, the shadows behind her flickering ominously. "You were always meant to know. They've been watching you." "Who has?" Ellen demanded, her voice gaining strength. She was no longer just a pawn in someone else's game. With each breath, she felt the rapid pulse of determination stirring her increasingly fraught emotions. Tell me everything. They don't just want him. They want you. You've become a part of this, and there's so much more at stake than you realize. And you need to be prepared. I can help you. The gravity of those words weighed heavily on her shoulders. Ellen had been seeking empowerment, striving to learn about her own vulnerabilities. But this new structure of fear surrounding her decisions twisted that desire into a different shape. What did it mean to be prepared? Could she even prepare against something so nebulous as conspiracy? I'm not afraid, she claimed, although doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. How could she help when she felt so adrift herself? This is about more than safety or keeping secrets. It's about facing the truth. Natalie's eyes softened. Facing the truth often comes at a cost, Ellen. You'll need to harness something you didn't know you had. Are you ready for that? The question sliced through Ellen's defenses. Ready? What did that mean? She had spent her life trying to fit the molds others had created, losing herself in the process. But could she emerge stronger from this chaos? Ready or not, she replied with steady resolve. I want to know everything. I have to. I won't be a victim anymore. It was a declaration of her self-worth. But in the back of her mind, an insistent whisper questioned her preparedness. What truths lay beneath the surface? Then let us begin. There's a lot you haven't learned about yourself, Natalie continued, an air of mystery hanging around her like the cloak of night. You have skills, powers that you've yet to uncover. Ellen shivered at the prospect of hidden capabilities lurking within her, waiting for their moment to emerge. The journey she had envisioned for herself was about to spiral into uncharted territory. As they began to strategize amidst the tension-laden shadows, Ellen felt her nerves electrified with possibilities. She was on the brink of something monumental, a leap into the unknown that demanded both courage and insight. But just as Ellen prepared to dive deeper into this newfound plan, the sound of shuffling footsteps interrupted their discussion, and the leader stepped closer again, his expression unreadable. We don't have much time. We need to move. Glimpsing a future shrouded with uncertainty and shadows was both exhilarating and terrifying. Could she truly unlock her potential in a world filled with danger? The weight of this question hung heavily in the air as she prepared to confront not just external threats, but the labyrinthine depths of her own character, yet to be discovered. The moment had arrived to embrace her true self, and Ellen took a deep breath, ready to face the inevitable. What revelations awaited her? And would she seize them, or be devoured by the dark forces at play? The stakes had escalated, and Ellen was about to learn just how deep the rabbit hole ran. Ellen stood in the warehouse, the chaos of confusion swirling around her, but she felt an invincible clarity breaking through the fog. Everything she had experienced brought her here. Every moment of doubt, every scream of despair, hesitation had never been an option, but now she had shed it like an old skin. The shadows haunting her past finally stirred against this newfound strength. Ellen, Natalie said, urgency lacing her voice, you need to understand what lies ahead. This is more than just about Jake. It's your journey now. Tell me what I need to do, Ellen replied, resolve crystallizing her every word. The uncertainty that had weighed so heavily on her shoulders melted away as recognition blossomed. Her journey extended beyond simply finding her son. It was a reclaiming of identity, a battle for empowerment amid the tempest that had clouded her existence. Natalie nodded, gravitas coloring her expression. You have skills dormant within you, instincts honed from years of navigating life, but now they must sharpen into purpose. Each word resonated deep within Ellen. She felt a pulse of courage coursing through her veins. As they outlined their plan, Ellen realized her motivations had transformed profoundly. She was stepping out of her role as a passive bystander in life, reclaiming agency over her doubts and fears. It was exhilarating, a refreshing wind against the constraints of suffering she had worn like armor. Facing Jake, Ellen felt an electric connection. He no longer merely represented loss. He was courage itself, a reflection of her unwavering spirit as she fought to understand his world. Whatever I need to navigate this, I'll do it, she assured him, feeling the gravity in their shared gaze. I owe it to you, to myself. The atmosphere shifted inexplicably, caught between desperation and clarity. Ellen noted the flicker of admiration in Jake's eyes before he spoke. Mom, You have to realize that the forces we're against are powerful. They won't stop at anything to keep their secrets. I know. But that is precisely why I can't be afraid anymore, Ellen countered, her voice steady. I've walked through hell. Whatever lies ahead is a path I'm ready to forge. At that moment, the leader stepped forward, his steely gaze locking onto hers. You've made your choice. Understanding your power is paramount, and taking risks is part of this brutal pursuit of truth. Ellen anticipated the shadows would return to haunt her. Still, equipped with a clearer perception of her own vulnerabilities, she no longer saw them as weaknesses, but as pieces of strength waiting to be unveiled. The leader gestured toward a wall echoing with whispers, shadows pooling ominously. But heed my warning, every truth unveiled will demand something from you. As you rise, know that you must stand firm against the darkness that will oppose you. She felt the weight of his words but rejected the self-doubt that had crept in before. This moment marked her metamorphosis. Ellen was determined to ascend beyond trepidation, transcending the need for validation in a world caught in moral ambiguity. Then bring on the truth, she declared firmly, each syllable punctuated with newfound confidence. She was prepared for whatever sacrifices awaited her. The experience of confronting her fears had already begun to forge resilience in her soul. Clarity surged in waves. She wasn't merely looking for Jake anymore. She was reclaiming her narrative and the power nested within its depths as they prepared to move deeper into the shadows. Ellen felt an electrifying anticipation of unknown revelations waiting just beyond the threshold. The flickering fluorescent lights cast her resolute face in sharp relief. She was no longer the woman dulled by grief and self-doubt. She was now a warrior armed with knowledge, conviction, and a burning desire to protect her son while discovering her own capabilities. Ellen smiled knowingly at Jake, understanding now that they would face the shadows together. We'll rewrite the ending, she whispered, a promise escaping as they ventured forward, ready to embrace the full contour of their destinies. As Ellen and her comrades plunged into the depths of the darkness together, she finally understood she was more than a mother searching for a lost child. She was an unstoppable force prepared to confront whatever lay ahead, fiercely resolute in her purpose. The journey demanded sacrifice, but she felt the unfurling of her potential with every step. The echo of hope ignited a path before them, leading into the unknown where their truth awaited. Ellen had truly begun to conquer the labyrinth of her existence, reclaiming agency over her life in a way she never thought possible. The world, with all its complexities and shadows, could not break her. She would become a beacon of strength for her son, illuminating a path through the darkness ahead. And thus, she chose transformation stronger in her heart and mind than ever before, prepared to fight for all they deserved. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories we unveil. This is the moment to show your support for the journey ahead by clicking that button. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others discover this powerful tale of bravery and transformation. Comment below your reactions and theories about Ellen's evolution, and what you think lies in wait for her and Jake. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the empowerment.